Anime and manga is absolutely everywhere in Japan. Even though there's a smaller amount of people than you would expect that actually consume this kind of content, if you go outside, the buildings are gonna be blaring the songs because it's on the top 10 charts. When you go and look at the billboards, a lot of them are anime based, and they've got the most eye-catching visuals. And this is really common for Tokyo at the very least. I mean, even the trains have adverts playing on their video screens and plastered on the walls themselves. Like I said, you can't really escape it. But if you're coming to Japan because of your love of anime and manga, then well, you're coming to the right place. Because there's so many different ways that you get to interact with your favorite series. And that leads me to introduce the anime exhibition. Hi y'all, I'm Bayfond, and earlier this year when I went to Japan, I had the absolute luxury of being able to attend some of my favorite series' exhibitions. Those being for Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen. But before I dive into the specifics about these exhibitions, let me explain a little bit about what you're gonna expect when you go into one of these. An anime exhibition is a limited time event that usually tours around Japan. So maybe for like 2 weeks it's gonna be in Shibuya, and then it's gonna go to Yokohama, and so on and so on. And it's usually for fans that are really interested and invested in the behind the scenes aspect of things. You get to see scripts and world building that you wouldn't have gotten to see otherwise. There are also props brought in. Sometimes they could be the same ones that actually influence the creation of the actual series. And there's also other props that are gonna be recreations of what you actually saw on screen. But overall, an exhibition is a celebration of a series. And they hope to get you really hyped up because there's almost always a gift shop at the very end. And you damn well know that I also splurged on that gift shop. And something to mention before I start talking about the 2 exhibitions I went to are the set of rules that they gave us. Those being that you're not allowed to take video, and there are a limited amount of areas where you can actually take pictures. They're clearly labeled, and you shouldn't break that rule. I say shouldn't because it's kind of more like a trust system they got going on here. There's no attendants or cameras that are really gonna stop you, so it's kind of just based off your own morals here. I followed it because I wanted to be respectful, and yeah, there were a few spoilers in there. So with that, let me get started on the Chainsaw Man exhibition. And when going to this exhibition, it was kind of strange because this was held in what is the equivalent of basically IKEA. Really, I wouldn't have thought that a place that sells general goods to hold an event for Chainsaw Man. But Mappa's got to deal with them, so hey, it works out. The biggest, most in-your-face thing about this entire exhibition are the big statues that are there. There's the ones for Aki, Makima, Power, and Denji. And all of these were based off of figures that are gonna be coming out in the next few months. So I would say that this kind of serves as a large-scale promotional tactic to get those. And I gotta say, blown up to that huge degree, they look stunning. I'm not ashamed to say that I already pre-ordered a few of them. This just kind of gives incentive to anyone that might have been on edge. But when you go into this, you see that everything is broken down episode by episode. Each one detailing the story and what the characters had to go through, while also giving you some access on what the creators were doing here. You get to see the animation cells, things that are penciled out, and what they did in the actual artwork to showcase how they actually pulled off these effects by adding in sometimes grain to make it feel more cinematic. If you're someone that has any interest in animation, an exhibition is the perfect place for you. You get to see movements of key frames mixed in with all the in-betweens, and you get to see the separation of each one individually. And looking past the animation side of things, they also had a few replicas of things that were in the show. I would say my favorite was probably the letter. You get a full life-size representation of what the character would be reading. I like things like this because it makes it feel real. And in another room, there was a TV that made me feel just so fucking happy that it's kind of impossible that a TV can make me feel this way. And that was because it was almost the identical TV used in my favorite ED of Chainsaw Man. I say almost because I think the entire thing was probably made in visual effects, so this is the closest thing they could get to the real life thing. And it was playing the ED in that VHS style. To be honest, I could have probably swooned and died at that moment. It was probably the most immaculate vibe I've seen. And a lot of those things that were there, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of like the cells and the paintings and the drawings and things like that were able to be purchased after the fact in the gift shop. Not the real ones, of course, just copies. And this is where I would say that if you want the good stuff, then you probably should come early to these events. I wanted an Aki poster so bad, but they were sold out, so I had to settle for getting a clear piece. This Pochita that was here was something that I bought in that exhibition, and to be honest, I think it's one of the more high quality Pochitas that you can find. I had a great time coming here, and I wanted to go again, but when I started to look at rebooking this, there really weren't too many options, so that kind of went down the drain. This exhibition was in Shibuya, and I had to pre-book this the day before because the thing is, they were only taking online reservations. It wasn't so bad. Even with my limited Japanese comprehension skills, I was able to get through it. And next up is the Jujutsu Kaisen exhibition, because god damn. Something that I didn't say about the Chainsaw Man exhibition was that one was kind of small and not a lot of people were coming in and out. That's definitely not the case with Jujutsu Kaisen's exhibition, because this one was packed to the brim. I think some things that might have let this happen were this one was located in Ginza, and there was no online reservation that you had to make. You could just show up and just wait in a little queue. and it didn't take too long at all. Which is exactly what I did, but I'm still completely dumbfounded by how popular Jujutsu Kaisen is in Japan. It is such a stark night and day difference when looking at both of these exhibitions. And at the same time, looking at the ratio of people that like the series. Because to be completely honest with you, it was kind of sort of like an 80-20 split between women and men inside of this Jujutsu Kaisen exhibition. The girls were absolutely fawning over all of these hot anime dudes. And to give them credit, after looking at Gojo's eyes for so many times in a row, yeah, I kind of get it. And the amount of things that they had in this exhibition kind of dwarfed everything that was in Chainsaw Man. Like for starters, costumes galore. If you wanted to see what the life-size actual school uniforms were gonna look like, here you go. This exhibition was more so focused on season 2 and the movie Zero. Yeah, so there was a lot of stuff here. Same rules applied as the Chainsaw Man one. You're not allowed to take any video and the pictures are scarce. But I would say probably there were a bit more picture opportunities here. You could take a picture of Nanami's weapons. There's Yutha's ring that had a nice little visual effect to it. And a lot of stuff. I would say this one is definitely more bang for your buck. And I can easily admit that, even though I am a much bigger Chainsaw Man fan. This is where I would say that I saw like a little spoiler or so, because it was a certain prop that you weren't allowed to photograph. To describe it, it was like a cube that had eyes on it, and it was organic? I don't know. Maybe that means something to some of you. But I'll say the coolest part about this entire thing was this room that was showcasing the big climax of the movie. And right in the center was Yuta's cursed sword. I feel like I stood there and watched it like 3 times, which is the equivalent of like 10 minutes. Chills ran down my spine the entire time. And overall, it was really hella fun. Both of these exhibitions were limited time, so they're probably not running right now. Or at the very least, not running in Shibuya or Ginza. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a plethora of different exhibitions for you to go to, because to be honest with you, they are everywhere and there's always something for someone. Right before I arrived, like maybe about like a week or 2 before, there was JoJo World 2. And then there was the Attack on Titan one that was also taking a little vacay to Singapore. And if you look at the stuff that came out right after I left Japan, there was a whole slew of stuff. For like Full Metal Alchemist and Demon Slayer. If you're gonna go to Japan, there's like a 0% chance that there isn't something you can't go to, because they are everywhere. I recommend that you take a look at like a map or something. Something that tells you events that are coming up in your area where you're staying. Because I think you're gonna be pleasantly surprised at what you're gonna be seeing. These things are pretty inexpensive and you just get to enjoy yourself with other fans of the source material. Honestly, it's just a fantastic way to geek out on your favorite things. I couldn't recommend them more than I do. And with that, I think that wraps up my recommendation of anime exhibitions. As always, I was Bayfond, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.